Now there's really only two here that I think we might need to take a closer look at, and that's I think 14 and 16, and we'll do both of those. But while we're looking, treat this one like we did this one up here. You're going to multiply both sides by the reciprocal. Multiply by 16 over 1, that's going to cancel that, times 16 over 1. And technically you could have gone through this without doing that because everything's a perfect square. But it's better just to get your radical by itself. Now you have the square root of 12 minus x is equal to 4. And at this point I would square both sides and take it from there. You'll only have one solution here. But to the ones that I actually said that we're going to take a closer look at, this one is really going to ultimately turn out to be something that looks like one of these others. Okay, you got to cross multiply though to begin with, and that's not going to be too much of a task because you're multiplying the messy thing here by 1, and so that all becomes a 2x squared plus 2x on this side. But when you go to this side, you're going to distribute a negative 14 to both of those. Negative 14 times x plus 1, and just make sure they're equal to each other. So when you distribute this, you've got a negative 14x minus 14 equals blah, 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 2x squared plus 2x. So now we're going to move everything over by doing the opposite. Add 14x and add 14. The 14x goes here, and the 14 goes over there. All that hoopla to say it's equal to 0. We have a 2x plus 16x, 2x squared, plus 16x plus 14. And like we did down here, we're going to take out the 2, still equal to 0. We're left with an x squared plus 8x plus 7 now. That will get you to x plus 1 and x plus 7. It's also going to have that 2 out in front. But what you have to contend with here is that x plus 7 could potentially equal 0. Oops. Plus 7 equals 0. X plus 1 could also equal 0. And if you went ahead and said, well, there's another thing, well, let's set it equal to 0. Is 2 equal to 0? No, it's not. So that wouldn't necessarily give you anything that makes sense. You subtract the 1 from both sides, you get x equals negative 1. You subtract 7 from both sides, and you get x equals negative 7. Those are your two solutions for 14. However, you'll notice there's only one spot. Because there's only one spot, that means there's a hint, and shame on me for almost missing it. But what you basically have to do is, in each case, and it should be done no matter what, not just when you're given a hint, plug your answer back in to see if the solution works. And if we look at this and we realize there's only one solution, then we want to see, okay, is there a rule being broken? And yeah, if you plug in a negative 1 into that denominator, you have a negative 1 plus 1, which is equal to 0. So even though this one worked out algebraically, we don't want to include that as one of our answers. So negative 7 is the only answer we get from here, and we can cross that off the list. The last one from this section we'll take a look at here is this. When you have a radical and a non-radical, what we need to do is basically say, okay, well, this becomes a package deal because what we have to do to both sides to get rid of that radical, square both sides. Okay, the squaring it basically removes the radical and leaves us with an x minus 1. When we square this side, we actually have to FOIL this thing out. Okay, x minus 1 is the same, squared is the same thing as saying x minus 1 times x minus 1. Okay, that's going to give us a whole set of stuff. It's going to give us an x squared, your outer term is a minus 1x. Inner is going to be another minus 1x, and the last is going to be a plus 1. With that in mind, we're going to move these guys over. We're going to subtract x from both sides, add to the little pile of minus 1x's. We're going to add 1 to both sides, so there we have that there. Combine all that together, it ends up becoming, wherever I can fit it, maybe over here, x squared, 1, 2, 3, minus 3x plus 2, and that whole thing is going to equal 0. So we're able to factor that to be x minus 1 and x minus 2. Those are going to get your positive 2 and your negative 3. So your two solutions, because it's equal to 0, are x equals 1 and x equals 2 because you solve for both for 0.